Okay, I'm back. I think Ollie should have fixed his problems already. So I'm gonna invite him. Once he's watching, I can invite him to join the call. I hope. Um, Waiting for Ollie. Okay, bring them on camera. Come on. Yes.
Ollie's. Yeah.
There we go.
Yes. Oops.
Success.
Success. Hello,
How are you,
sir.
Mario?
Yeah, I know
So
who
I've
you are,
learned
Victor.
learned that you can't do it through PC. That's annoying.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I tried to start with a PC, but apparently I had to download the latest version of Google Chrome.
Yes.
And I mean, I could do it, but we wanted to start half an hour ago, so it's been a bit late.
Yes.
So apparently it's like laptop to laptop or PC to PC or phone to phone. So I think it works better if we just download our the app, the Facebook app in our phone.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I will keep the app and hopefully not
yes.
get distracted by it.
No, just after the call you want. So right before when we were having the issues and
So,
when we're trying to understand what was going on with the phone and everything, there was a friend who was joining the chat, and he's Spanish, but he lives in Woking. He works for McLaren actually, and he's a very knowledge. He's a great expert in Formula One. Knowledgeable, that's the word I wanted to say. But knowledgeable in Formula One. So maybe if he connects back, we can invite him in the call and see what he thinks as well. But let's start the two of us and see how it goes.
A lot was going on in the
expect that
last week.
Yes. So was that according to your expectations?
Oh, it cut out midway through that, so I only had half of that.
I was just saying, did the news live up to your expectations?
Well, it was between Ricciardo and Sainz, so there was no other real choice. So
yeah,
yes and no. I'm surprised Ricciardo didn't go to Ferrari, and I'm surprised he gone to McLaren.
Yeah,
that's why. But
yeah,
it kind of makes sense for Ferrari because they want a number one and a number two driver. And at the moment, it's Leclerc number one, Sainz number two. Unless Sainz suddenly matches Leclerc, then it's going to be a lot of Ferrari top heads of Ferrari scratching their heads.
Well, but that's the thing. That's the first question. How do you think Sainz is gonna benefit from Ferrari and Ferrari is gonna benefit from Sainz? So that two driver situation where Leclerc is clearly the number one today, but we don't know how Sainz is gonna perform. What do you think is gonna happen?
Sainz is a properly good driver, though. Properly good driver. So it's going to be all on how do I put this? Sort of like how he gets on, how he gets along with the team and everything.
Yeah.
If it's a case of Barrichello Schumacher, where it's definitely from the start, you're number one, you're number two, then it could be interesting for Sainz. But if they just let them race, I think Sainz he'll be up with Leclerc. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
He will annoy him. I think he will annoy him, Leclerc, Sainz. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I think I'm starting to see that as a great move for Sainz, though, because I mean it's obviously Ferrari. You can't turn down such an offer. But Leclerc is such a great driver, and Leclerc is very involved in the Ferrari family already. So I think most likely Sainz is gonna become the new Barrichello. And to be honest, I don't see Sainz outperforming Leclerc, at least not at the moment. So we should wait and watch what happens. But at least in Spain, I've been seeing the news in Spain. Many people are super excited about Sainz becoming a Ferrari driver, and my personal opinion is that he's gonna struggle to live up to everyone's expectations in Spain or within Sainz supporters because of Leclerc.
Do you think Sainz is going to be given all the tools?
Well, I'm not gonna start criticizing Ferrari now, but I think Ferrari should be fair and give them the same opportunities technical wise.
For example, when it was Kimi and Vettel, not sure how true this is, but apparently they designed the car more to Vettel's liking than to Kimi's liking.
Yeah. Same rumor went with Alonso and Kimi, and even with Massa, I think. People said the car was more designed around Alonso's preferences rather than the other driver.
That was very true when he was in McLaren.
Yeah, as well, yeah. So, Mitchell is asking about Alonso. Hold on, because we're going to discuss that later. But your point is very, very interesting. Who's this? Peter Salisbury. The Sainz get to use the car. It's kind of strong. Yeah. So Ferrari will have to make a decision on whether they're gonna design the car around Sainz or Leclerc or both. So I'm not really sure how to evaluate both drivers' driving styles.
The other question is, it's going to be all depending on how Ferrari this year, because apparently if the rumors are true and their car is behind on Red Bull, Mercedes, maybe Racing Point, then that could get complicated. I don't know how else to describe it, really.
But you mean because the vibe inside the team is going to be more tense because of the poor results?
Well, they'll take higher risks with the design for next year. That's my opinion. And Ferrari Ferrari's come out with the news that they're considering joining IndyCar, which would be an interesting one.
And a possible destruction. I hope it's not, but
also, if Ferrari wins that, there'll be a lot of Americans unhappy.
Yeah,
Chevrolet true. And Honda.
Yeah.
And then Ferrari comes along and beats them, then there will be a lot of unhappy people there.
Yeah. So Peter supports your point. They had the big cars prepared, so they are in trouble. That's true. They were in trouble in the beginning of this year. But the question is, based on the two drivers, do you think they'll be able to design a car that both drivers can adjust to?
For 2021, for sure they'll design it around Leclerc. That's my opinion, because he has all this year for input for next year's car. And then also, Sainz is brand new to the team, so they won't know exactly what he likes, what setups he likes, that stuff. So they'll solely go with Leclerc. That's my opinion. And then 2022 will be the big year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So
that's when they'll just make a car.
But that also depends on 2021. So if Leclerc keeps outperforming by a huge margin over Sainz, the car in 2022 will keep being designed around Leclerc's preferences. So the thing is, how can Sainz benefit from that? Like, can Sainz adapt to Leclerc's driving style? I don't know how the driving style of both drivers is, or how they compare in terms of driving. So Peter says their styles are similar, but not exactly the same.
The other thing is how much there's so many restrictions for next year with the new rules, because there's a budget cap coming in next year. They're not allowed to massively change the chassis for next year. They're not allowed. They're taking away aero from the floor from next year, from what I've understood. So there's so many variables for next year. It all depends on, so they're not allowed to do too much, and they're even talking about doing a token system where for each upgrade they give in a certain amount of tokens, so they can only do a limited amount of a development throughout the year. So it's so hard to say what's going to happen.
Yeah. So those are the two main factors. Like, there are many dependencies with the new rules, and we don't really know how the teams, and in particular Ferrari, are going to develop the car. And then the other factor is how different or similar the driving styles are from Sainz and Leclerc. So we'll see what happens there. And the same question would go for McLaren. And so
Ricciardo.
Ricciardo has a very strong driving style. Like, and he loves driving the car and bring it as possible. And that's something we haven't. I think it's easier to tell the difference between Lando and Ricciardo. However, the difference now with the Ferrari case is that Ricciardo will be number one in McLaren, very likely.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm just looking forward to Ricciardo and Lando watching interviews and stuff, because they are going to be so funny together. That will be the funniest team on the grid unless something happens between them. But they are both characters, both have a sense of humor, so it should be just a laugh, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be serious points, but it should be so funny. I really hope so. It's what F1 needs.
Yeah, and fully agree with that, and that has a positive point for McLaren as well. So if everyone knows Ricciardo, the pair Ricciardo Norris is gonna be a great fun couple to watch in Formula One. Sponsors interested in McLaren, and that's good news for McLaren, so that they can develop more and more the car in 2022. Yeah. So that's a positive side as well.
With the budget caps, they have to do all their development for 2022. Well, most of it this year, because there's no budget cap this year. So the teams this year are throwing money at the 2022 car. They're saying this is going to be the most expensive year for teams in history of F1, because they're going to be pouring all the money into the development of the 2022 car. Because then next year, I'm trying to remember, I think it's 145 million is the budget cap. Sounds insanely expensive.
Wasn't there a recent update that cap?
So for next year, it's 145 million a year, if I remember correctly. But I think it's something like Ferrari spend closer to 300 million a year, or even over that. It's a mental amount of money they spend now.
Well, that is going to be indifferent for McLaren. But it's true that regardless of how many sponsors are interested in the team, maybe with the cap. Although I wouldn't focus very much in the budget cap. To be honest, well, before going there for spreading the word, I don't think we're gonna get 10,000 viewers right now, but thanks for that, mate. So I was saying
that could only end well.
So I was gonna say, so the budget cap is very not completely defined. There will be many holes in the rules, and I'm pretty sure they will get money from many other sources.
Yeah, I think Ricciardo will be a positive thing for the team, for sure.
Yes.
I think Ricciardo will be a positive thing for the team. However, with the Renault car, how do I put this? He's even admitted he's not quite sure about the brakes. It's why he can't go for his classic absolute bonsai dive moves like he could in the Red Bull car. Because in the Red Bull car, he had 100% confidence, so he knew exactly it will stop when I stamp on the brake here.
He didn't have that confidence in Renault.
Or with the Renault, I mean. No.
Yeah.
And you saw that at like Baku, where he just completely went straight on with Kvyat and then reversed into him. And there's been a couple of other instances where he locked up. So he just can't do those banzai moves like he could in the Red Bull. But hopefully McLaren will be able to give him that confidence on the brakes, and we'll be able to see those banzai moves.
Yeah, and that's going to be the great challenge. And I highlight this now that my friend Alex is there and he's strongly connected to this. That's gonna be a great challenge for McLaren to be able to provide Ricciardo with a car able to brake at the very last meter, like as late as possible. But if I see McLaren more able to get that achievement to provide that type of car than Renault. So fingers crossed. I really have my hopes high for that.
Well, it's going to be interesting because Renault's pouring a lot of money into the F1. McLaren is trying to do everything to get back up to the top. So normally what happens is just before these rule changes come in, there is suddenly a load of load of teams get on the same level just before it all goes away. Like just before these regulations came from 2016 to 2017, Red Bull and Ferrari were nipping on the heels of Mercedes. Yeah. And then they changed it, Mercedes became dominant again. So probably next year, those teams will be, I'm not going to say on the pace, but not far off.
Yeah.
Enough to be annoying in the races.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And go on.
Bit like 2012.
Oof.
I think it's 2012.
2012, yeah. We all wish that.
That was a brilliant season.
Yes, it was, yeah. So, adding to your point, what you said the other day in the other call we had, McLaren has a big opportunity to develop their chassis because that's the only team allowed to tweak some parts of the chassis because of the new engine from Mercedes.
Yes.
So
yes. I've been reading up on that closely, and apparently when they're going to do it, the FIA are going to be scrutinizing every little thing they do to make sure they don't gain a massive advantage from it. So literally the FIA are saying all you're allowed to do is adjust your chassis so the engine fits. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Whether McLaren can be clever with it, it's another question. But F1 teams always like to find the limits of what they can and can't do, like Mercedes with a DAS system.
Yeah, that's true. So Alex was highlighting the Ricciardo modes in McLaren, which I think is going to be very positive. Peter was asking if we think Sato will be back from the IndyCar. I think Sato was succeeding a lot in IndyCar, but for some reason he wasn't that great in Formula One. But he wasn't that great.
He was a
Gone.
He was an absolute. How do I put this? He was a bonsai driver in F1. There was no calm driving. That was either nothing or flat out.
Yeah.
Sato. There was nothing in the middle, which made them spectacular to watch. But I think the only way a Japanese driver will come back in is if Hondas tell Red Bull, you must have this driver, or Honda makes their own team. And if anyone will come into F1, I think it'll be Yamamoto from the Super GT.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If he did the testing. Yeah. If you saw the testing for Japan last year for Suzuka, he did FP1, I think it was, and was only like half a tenth slower than Kvyat in his first F1 outing.
Okay. But for next year, for the next 2 years, who do we have confirmed for Red Bull and Toro Rosso?
Oh, Red Bull, the only one is Verstappen. Toro Rosso, no one's confirmed for next year.
Okay.
But I can't say his name. Marco is a pain in the ass when it comes to that thing. If he doesn't like someone, they're out. Goodbye. Even if they're good.
True. Yeah. Honestly, just coming back to that, that's an interesting question. Even though Sato could be good in today's Formula One, and it would need to be with a Honda engine. So Red Bull, I don't think Toro Rosso will have an old driver. Takuma Sato must be 30 or around 30 years old.
I think 40. 40. I think he's in his mid-40s now, Sato.
Yeah, no, I think there's no chance right now in the Honda team unless Honda provide engines to another team, which could happen, but there's no new contract.
Or make their own team.
Or make their own team for 2022. Well, we know Aston Martin is going to be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah. Gavin makes a very good point with what the commentary's just made.
Yeah. So Gavin doesn't expect much changes in the McLaren chassis then, without comment.
He says it's going to be it's hard to make drastic changes with the engine. But interesting point. It'll be the first time Ricciardo's driven the Mercedes-powered F1 car in his career.
True. Well, but that's just an interesting fact. I don't think there will be any issue with that. He's not an engine breaker or anything. He's not known for mistreating the engines.
Well, you could argue that with Red Bull. His last year Red Bull, where literally every single race he had an engine failure. I'm not sure that was his fault, though. I think that was just sheer bad luck.
Renault, yeah.
Yeah. And Verstappen just seemed to have all the luck.
Yeah, that's true. So speaking about Renault, so the third question is, what's going to happen with Renault? So we see Sainz out of McLaren going to Ferrari, then McLaren with Ricciardo leaving Renault. So what's going to happen with Renault? I think there are many options. So the one that's been hearing the most in the last days is Alonso. But then there are other options, Hülkenberg and academy drivers like John Guanjusu, Jack Aitkins, and both of these drivers in Formula 2, if I'm not wrong. And also
I saw Bottas being mentioned. I'm not sure about that.
I've heard that option as well. It would be great for the show to have Bottas. I mean, I'm not saying Bottas shouldn't be in Mercedes, but having Russell in Mercedes replacing Bottas would be very fun to watch. And I think in Mercedes. But coming back to Renault, and the first of the options we've mentioned, Alonso, what do you think of that?
He will be looking for 2022 with these new rule regulations. That's why he wants to come back, is for these new rule regulations. He's admitted it. He says he was interested by it. He likes the new rule regulations. So it would make sense to get him in a seat a year before to get used to everything once again before jumping into the new season. Alonso has apparently signed a pre-agreement. I have not heard that one.
I saw that in the headline of the French press. So could be true. I don't know. Gavin raises a very interesting question. What about lady options for Renault?
The only one I can think of is Jamie Chadwick, who I used to race against. So it's very weird watching her as a Williams test driver now. But it's that's the only name that pops up.
Yeah, but she's not very connected to Renault. Have any other lady driver potentially becoming a Renault driver?
Not at this moment.
That's a very interesting point. And
there's a few about. There's a few about, but they're not quite there yet, if that makes sense. The closest one is Jamie Chadwick, who is a very good driver. She's a very, very good driver. She was an absolute pain when it came to defending, because she knew exactly how to defend in karts. She wasn't the fastest, but wow, she was annoying to try and overtake. This was back in Castle Coombe about 15 years ago.
Wow.
But it was, but now she's got her foot in the door with being a Williams, I think it's reserve driver.
Cut off. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, great.
Okay.
So while the connection was out, I've just Googled some other drivers, woman drivers in Renault. And the only one I can see is Carmen Jorda.
Jordan.
Yeah.
No.
She's not very good.
She was. This is going to sound horrible. This is going to sound absolutely terrible.
But you're not.
I
know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say, and you're not the first person who says that. But go on.
I'll stop there because you know exactly what I'm going to say. But let's put it this way: when she was signed for Lotus, she was finished 22nd in the Formula 2 Championship. So she's not got the skill level to get to be a main driver unless literally a sponsor of hers throws massive amounts of money.
Yeah, I agree.
Or one of her parents buys the team.
Yeah, I don't think she had the skills yet to be there. So unfortunately, I can't think of any other lady driver. But that's a very good point from Gavin, and would be great for the show, for Formula One show. But just let me go back to Alonso's question, because Pete made a comment that's very interesting. And I was gonna make the same comment as well. Alonso really needs to stay calm in the first year with Renault if he joins Renault, because he's gonna be more focused on the 2022 rules. You know, I'm biased by Alonso. I'm a great supporter of his career and everything, but I also acknowledge that he is becoming more rude when it comes to Formula One performance and the rules and everything, and more impatient. I mean, obviously he's old, so he becomes impatient as well. So the question is, will he be patient enough in 2021 to get the car in 2022? Will he support the team enough?
I think he would. With McLaren, the first year with Honda, he was, I wouldn't say, he was being honest, but not being rude about it. It was when he got to the second and third year and there was no progress, then he just got fed up. He just said whatever the hell he liked. GP2 engine.
Yeah.
It's an embarrassing and stuff like that. Then he just got fed up. So I think when if he comes back to F1, he will hold himself back because he knows Renault will not be a front running team in 2021, or it's extremely unlikely. But then 2022, I don't know. Anything can happen with these rule changes. I mean, 2008, 2009, we went from McLaren and Ferrari being top teams to being the worst teams.
Yeah. Is it worth coming back? Schumacher came back and Kimi came back, and neither of them really succeeded when they came back, but still they had fun enough. They could develop the car. Is it worth for Alonso to come back to Renault and wait 1 year until 2022?
Well, if he does what Kimi's doing at the moment, which is doing it for fun, he's even admitted it's a hobby.
Yeah, but I don't see, not because I support Alonso, but because what Alonso means for sponsors and everything. I don't think Alonso is in the same, or it's not seen the same as Kimi. Let's say Kimi doesn't have a lot of influence in the media. Alonso does. So I don't think Alonso is going back just to kill time.
No, he wants a third world championship. That's the main reason. That's the only reason. He wants a triple crown.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason he'll come back.
It would be very interesting, but I think that's another consideration for Renault to make. If they hire Alonso, they need to support him. They need to be patient with him because he's going to be very, very demanding.
It might be a good thing for Renault, though, because Renault the last few years have been a little bit, we'll try this, we'll try that. That suspension front-end design didn't work. Alonso will just do this. It's when he went to Ferrari, his way of working worked perfectly. Because in 2012, Ferrari went from being a sort of mediocre midfield team to being a top team within 4 or 5 races. Because Alonso just went, okay, you need to sort this out now.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting questions in the comments, I'm just seeing.
Yeah, so Gavin's question is very interesting. It's related to what you were saying. Who's the best driver, or who has the best skills to set up the car in Formula One?
Oh, that's a good question.
Vettel is not bad.
I was going to mention him.
Yeah.
Hamilton's happy when the car's set up right. He moans a lot when it's not set up right, but he still drives the wheels off it. It's just...
Yeah, that doesn't fully answer the question, though. So
yeah,
Hamilton is good, but yeah. I would say Vettel is one of the best.
I'll do a surprising one. Leclerc.
Can't say really,
because he's managed to drive around that car more times than Vettel last year. Like Bahrain, for example. He found the sweet spot of that car in Bahrain and just got unlucky with the engine fault at the end of the race.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other drivers, but I can't really think of any who's best
That's a difficult
up.
question, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hard
I
question.
need to think about that. The other question, which is greatest ever F1 race in the last 10 years? I'm going to go with the boring, obvious choice of Canada. Canada
2011. Yeah. For me,
I think it was 2011.
2011.
God,
Yeah.
that's
2011.
That's 9 years
4
ago.
hours. Yeah.
That's scary. That's 9 years ago now.
Yeah. Germany last year was a very good one.
It
Brazil.
was a good race, but it was mad.
Yes. Yeah.
Brazil last year was good.
Brazil last year was good. Brazil 2012 was good as well. Yeah, those are the ones.
Bahrain 2014.
Bahrain 2014. That was my next one. That was an impressive race in a championship that was boring as hell.
That was one of the most underrated races I think there's ever been.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was a race-long battle for the lead between teammates, and yet very few people mention it.
Yeah.
The other one was, what am I thinking of? Canada 2014, when Ricciardo won his first race.
I can't remember that race. I can't remember how it developed.
Both Mercedes had brake issues. Hamilton couldn't manage it and cooked his brakes and had to retire. Rosberg kept going but was majorly down on power. Then it was a four-way battle for second with Massa, Perez, Vettel and Ricciardo. Ricciardo went for a dive bomb, went half off the track at the second turn but managed to keep it and overtake Rosberg. And then on the last lap, there was a massive crash between Perez and Massa, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I
don't know how I remember all that.
No, but I'll tell you another one, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree. Baku 2018, that was a hell of a race. And that was the first race when we realized, wow, Baku is such a great circuit.
I wouldn't call that a race. I would call that more a demolition derby.
What?
It was just every single thing that could have happened did happen in that race, apart from rain.
Yeah, I mean, the last 10, 15 laps were mad.
Another race, Australia 2010.
That was won by Button.
That's when
Button.
Yeah.
Because it started rain. Yeah, it started raining, and he was the very first one who went into pits and changed for the green tires. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
And then Vettel had brake failure.
Didn't remember that. I don't remember that.
Which gave Button the win.
Well, Monaco, all the races in Monaco with rain are amazing. No discussion in that. So sorry for coming back to the news now that we don't have more questions on the chat. So we've covered Ferrari, we've covered McLaren, we've covered Renault. And Renault because we've discussed Alonso, who seems to be the most likely. I think the second most likely would be one of the academy drivers. But
I think he's most talked about. I don't think he's most likely, but he's definitely most talked about.
That's correct. Yeah.
I would still be surprised if he comes back.
Me too. But I don't know. It could be interesting as well. But then I would say one of the academy drivers. But then my next question was going to be, then what happens with Vettel? Where do you want to see Vettel next year?
I think Vettel's only choice is Mercedes. That's my opinion. I think if Bottas doesn't quite perform this year, I think they will get Vettel. because it will be a German driver in a German team, and they are desperate for that in Mercedes. Apparently, they're very high up in Mercedes want a German driver in their team. They don't want two Brits in their German team.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the rumours are. But I think that's his only hope, unless the other option being is take a year out and come back when the new regulations come in.
What do you think Hamilton will think about it? Will he support that idea, though? Hamilton is the boss of Mercedes right now.
Yeah, that's true. And they're very respectful towards each other, to be fair to Vettel and Hamilton. But I'm not sure how that will go down. It would be fun to watch the fireworks go off.
Oh yeah. It will be, I mean, for the show, it will be great. And I was thinking, Hamilton has got 6 championships. His goal might be either breaking Schumacher's record, but he's repeatedly said he's not interested into it. That might be true or not. He might just want to come off as humble and be focused on his stuff, and that's all. Or maybe it's true deeply. But if he's no longer interested in breaking the record, he might think, well, this is gonna be one of my last years. Let's just put the show, and let's bring Vettel, and let's all enjoy the party.
Oh yes, I wouldn't call it a party. I'll call it an absolute fist fight, a boxing match. But the problem with Bottas is he's a damn good driver. He is a really good driver. He just lacks that slight racecraft that Hamilton has, just ever so slightly. He lacks that just go for it. I'm gonna just dive bomb up the inside of you, or I will defend like crazy with you. He just lacks that little bit of oomph to him.
Yeah, but he's consistent somehow. He can be consistent.
He's consistent. Yeah, he's consistent, and if he's in the right day, he is unstoppable. He is just as fast as Hamilton, in my opinion.
And that makes it more difficult for Mercedes to find an excuse to keep him out.
Yeah, it all depends on this year. It all depends on his performance this year, in my opinion.
Yeah. Next question. Well, I was going to ask about Vettel, but I saw a couple of comments about circuits, and you have a question that's really interesting. What tracks would you like to see on the calendar this season? Do you want me to go for it first, and you answer them?
Go for it.
Okay. So I struggled to pick up the 10 or 12 circuits. I don't think there will be more Grand Prix this year. I mean, I tried to be realistic in this selection, considering the quarantine times mandated by the government, and obviously the Formula One is more interested in keeping the races for only this year and not mixing to the next season, although we might be surprised. We don't know. And I've also considered Austria will be the first Grand Prix. And Great Britain has already said they're gonna host 2 Grand Prix. So those 2 circuits will be
if the government allows it.
If the government allows it.
If the government allows it. Because there's still questions. The Silverstone said they can, but the government is a bit. Let's see what they say.
Yeah, let's see. So considering those factors, and also the factors that because of the logistic issues, all the European circuits will need to be in the same period of time, then America and then Asia. The last one, because Abu Dhabi will want to be the last race of the season, of course.
I think what they're doing, I think the order they're going in, I might be wrong, but I think it's Europe, Asia, America, Middle East, I think is the order that they're doing it in. So they're actually going like that.
Okay, well,
I think I might be wrong about that, but I think
maybe I should resort my list, but this is my top 10 or 11 that I've chosen. Austria, Great Britain, Spa must be in the calendar.
Yeah.
Netherlands, the new sandboard circuit. I just want to see that circuit. Then changing the continent to America, US, Mexico, Brazil, then going to Asia, Japan, Singapore, because I think Singapore deserves to be there just to have to give a chance to those cars that are not very good in very, very long straights. So Red Bull can benefit from that.
Said. Yeah, it's interesting what they've said, Singapore, that there will, if there is a race there, they will have spectators.
Yeah. I mean, everything's so much in the air right now. There are so many comments and so many confirmations, but not confirmed yet. That we find all those comments interesting, but it's really difficult to believe they're gonna become real. But as a personal opinion, I want Singapore to be in the calendar.
To answer Gavin's comment just now, yes, the cow would be insane.
Yes, it would be too crazy, I think. Would be great to watch, but with the super wide Formula One cars today, struggle
to
believe that's gonna happen.
Overtaking into turn 3, and then that will be it. I don't think they'll be able to make it around the hairpin at Macau. I
Maybe
think that's
not.
too tight for the F1 car.
I mean, they need to install the handbrake to let you turn. And the very last 2 races for me would be Vietnam. I want to see Vietnam, and obviously Abu Dhabi, which I don't like, but I guess realistically speaking, that's gonna be the last race, whatever the championship is gonna look like.
Yeah, I can see that. Not Bahrain.
Well, Bahrain has cancelled. Didn't they cancel the Grand Prix this year?
I think they postponed it. So I think they're doing because Bahrain and Abu Dhabi are sort of near each other. So I think it will be the last 2 races will go Bahrain, Abu Dhabi. I think.
Okay, then I'll include Bahrain. Yeah, I love that circuit.
Yeah, I think unfortunately the Dutch Grand Prix has been completely cancelled this year because they're saying if we can't have a race with spectators, they don't want to race at all. But I would like to see how F1 cars go along there.
Yeah.
With Gavin's other point of saying, is there any tracks being developed? Finland's developing a track for MotoGP, and they're saying they want F1 to be there eventually, if Bottas stays in the sport. So there could be a Finnish Grand Prix in the next few years.
Yeah, cool. Must be in July only, because otherwise it would be too cold and snowy.
True. Well, it could be great fun watching cars trying to get tyre temperature at -something degrees. It'll be on your marks, get set, driving on ice. And none of the cars are moving off the line.
And Pete also says, I'd love to see Formula One at the old car Detroit track. I don't know what track that is.
I know Detroit.
What do you think of that?
I know. Detroit. Detroit is a fun track for IndyCar. It's a very weird track, but it's a fun little track. There's normally lots of crashes there.
So it's kind of Singapore, but narrower, or
it's done in a park, I think. I think the track is in a park, pretty much.
Wow.
So it's such a variety of wide parts, really narrow parts, straights, twisting, flowing. It's so many variation, and there's concrete sections of concrete slabs where it's like sheet ice if you drive over it in the wet. And it's no runoff anywhere, pretty much.
So it's style.
Yeah, probably a bit wider than Monaco, to be fair.
Yeah,
but
wide.
yeah, if you can get a chance, have a look at try and find an IndyCar on board. It is a good little track.
Okay. There was another circuit that's under development, which is Miami. Have you seen the preliminary layout?
They changed it, so it went around what's the name of the stadium? Oh, no, I can't remember. American football. It went around one of the football stadiums, American football stadiums. So they changed the layout. But there won't be a race until early as 2022 because they're having so much backlash with residents in Miami who don't want this race, who they do not want an F1 race. So I'm not sure we'll have a race in Miami, to be honest, with everything that's going on. Probably not for a long time.
Yeah, maybe it's a better strategy to start with Formula E and see how it goes. So I don't know. Yeah, I've seen the preliminary layout and doesn't really appeal to me, to be honest. But let's see what happens. So go on.
Yeah. The other question from Mitchell was, which is the next upcoming F2 driver?
Mick
Schumacher's up there for sure. Everyone's watching him like a hawk.
Yeah.
Jack Aitken's got a good thing going.
Yes.
I can't say his full name. Something Zhu.
Yeah,
he's a very good driver.
Yeah.
You didn't want to hear me try and say that name. I'll just butcher it. I'm surprised Nick de Vries hasn't got a seat in F1.
Because who was the winner in Formula 2 last year?
Nick de Vries. He went straight to Formula E. And then I'm trying to think of any other up-and-coming drivers. It all mixes around, really.
Because we had Nicolas Latifi, who's now in Williams for this year.
F1, yeah.
And the other two drivers, those two are Renault drivers, right? Sue and Aitken.
Yes. You have who is it? I'm trying to think of the name. You have a Lacey son in F2, but I haven't seen much from him. He's not quite there yet. You have Ralf Schumacher's son in F3. And I think you have one of Montoya's son going into F3. There's a lot of former F1 drivers' sons coming into the sport now.
Fittipaldi's son. Yeah. I don't remember his name. That's another one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think based on the names you've mentioned, the most likely, I would say, either of the two Renault drivers, Guanyu Su and Jack Aitken. I think those are the two most likely to become Formula One drivers in terms of performance. But I'm afraid to say Mick Schumacher is probably another very likely driver to become a Formula One driver just for the name. So I don't feel.
I think he'll replace Kimi in Alpha. Or Giovinazzi if he doesn't perform. That's what I think.
Sounds very sensible. Yeah. Okay. So I had just one more question.
Yep.
But I don't know if you still have time, or I know it's a bit late in the UK right now. Okay.
It's only 20 past 10.
Okay, good. This is one of your questions. If you had a choice in the 2022 regulation changes, what would you change? And I'm pretty sure people in the chat will be interested to comment on this. So what are the changes you would implement in the 2022 season, other than the ones that are not gonna actually happen.
I wish they made the car smaller, as in shorter in length. Not necessarily in width, but just in the length of it. They're over 5.5 meters long now. They are huge.
Yeah, that's on that point.
I just wish.
That's on that point of making the car smaller. Recently we've seen the race, the Europe GP 2012 in YouTube that I commented with you in private. The reason why I mentioned that race is because in the first laps, it was so easy to sneak through the cars, even though they couldn't probably finish the overtake because of the short straights or the aerodynamics influence. But at least they were able to be 3 or even 4 cars in one straight. And that doesn't happen today. The cars, they are too big.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Too big and too heavy.
Too heavy.
Because something else you see with those cars is how much they move around. They slide on the braking, they slide on the acceleration. These cars are so planted, and when they do lose grip, they just snap at that. They are just gone, which makes them a pain in the ass to drive. So I'm not saying by any means that today's cars are easier to drive. No way. But it just doesn't look as spectacular as it did back then.
Yeah.
You don't have the drivers flooring it out of the corner with half opposite lock and just stuff like that.
Yeah, I fully agree. Pete was mentioning about retrieving the grooved tires. Do you think bringing back the grooved tires would help to make the show more?
Nah, they'll just take off aero and make the tires a bit thinner if they wanted to. They won't bring back grooves. That's my opinion.
It wouldn't be the first option to bring to the Formula One changes for sure. I think there are many other things that could be more interesting.
Yeah.
So, would you change the format of the Grand Prix?
No. Well, I would think about taking away one practice session, to have 2 practice sessions rather than 3. I wouldn't change the race format as such. I would love to see one-shot qualifying come back to F1. 1 lap quali.
Okay.
So so have it like how do I put it? So what we have now, so we have Q1 and Q2, and then unless it's a wet session, if it's 100% a dry session, instead of Q3, have Q3 as a one lap shootout between the top 10.
Okay, so a mix of both
would make it. Yeah, and then also would make it interesting. So do it reverse order what they are in Q2. So whoever finished 10th in Q2 would be the first one out. So it will mean in qualifying 2, drivers will be forced to go out and set as fast laps as possible to be the last car on track for qualifying 3 1 lap. So it just adds a little bit another dimension. That's my opinion, at least.
I had thought before about coming up with a mix of both qualifying systems, like the qualifying system we have today, and then 1 lap shootout. But obviously, the fewer cars in the shootout, the more the fairer, because of the possibly changing conditions. So I like that.
Yeah, the only way. Yeah.
Go on.
As you said, the only way it doesn't work is if it's changing weather conditions. But if it's changing weather conditions, they can just do a normal Q3 10-minute run of everyone goes out if it's wet and a drying track to make it fair.
Well, I wouldn't But to be fair, if you add that factor of the first person in qualify in Q2 goes last into the Q3 in doing the lap shootout, I wouldn't modify anything regardless of the weather conditions in Q3, because they are putting some risk in the Q2 as well, and that would be fun for the show.
Yeah. Also, it could be fun is if someone in it's like the back 5 went out and it was dry, and then the bottom 5, the top 5 in Q2 went out and it started raining. It'll be completely muddled up the grid.
Yeah. That I like that idea. So you say you wouldn't change the format of the race.
No.
I would change the qualifying, and I like your idea, but I would also change the format of the race, to be honest. I think some races are too long. I want pit stops, so that's good, but an hour and a half, I think, is too long, because you want more action on track, and you want also strategies. But at some point, there are many parts there. I think 300 kilometers, from 300 kilometers, which is the limit today, if they just reduced the limit to 250 kilometers or 240, something like that, which is approximately 10 laps down, I think that would be better.
Yeah. The only thing I have with that is the amount of races where it starts raining literally with a lap to go or just after the race finishes. And you think, why couldn't the race be 5 minutes longer? 10 minutes longer.
But that could happen regardless of the duration of the race. But another convenience of the format would be that that regulation of 100 kilos of fuel per race.
Yeah.
So if they could remain the same, they could keep the same limit, but the flow could be relaxed, so could be a bit higher. So that would make cars faster.
More powerful.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. To be honest, I don't think the cars need to be any faster.
No, I mean, not today, but that could make up for slower cars we have in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. Would you want to bring back refueling?
No. That's a very usual question. I'm not interested, because then races would be too strongly dependent on strategies.
Yeah. Also, I don't like the risk of fire with the refueling.
Yeah, that's another concern. All right, so I think we could do one more question, which is Pete's question. What do you think was the best mixed conditions race? Well, Canada 20.
Canada 20. That's the obvious one.
Yeah. Just to mention a different one. Well, Brazil 2012 was also a mixed condition race.
Yeah. Hungary 2016 was? No, 2015. I'm trying to remember what year it was.
Hungary.
No, it was 2014 even.
2006? How about that?
Yes. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. Hungary 2012.
I can't remember that one.
Gavin's mentioned something that I talked about in the last one of these we did. No pit stops.
Yeah. But he says one race a year with no pit stops. That's even more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the idea I had is they should take put in a rule that if the driver doesn't need to pit, they don't have to pit for another set of tires. They just have to. They can just go for as long as they like. So if they can get to the end on a hard set of tires, let them go for it. would have made races like Russia 2018, I think. 2018.
Yeah, but
when Verstappen started last.
Yeah, but would you like that in Monaco though? A race with no overtakes?
Oh yeah, it'd be great fun, because then you have drivers who are absolutely flying on this new set of tires versus drivers who have got destroyed tires at the end of the race.
So
what was the year? It was 2005, I think, where the tire change was banned. I think it was 2005,
maybe.
where they weren't allowed. They're only allowed to refuel. They weren't allowed to change tires during the race.
Yeah,
there was loads of issues with tires exploding.
Yeah, Pete says it was 2005. So yeah, I mean, I like the idea of putting just one or a few races with no pit stops, and then other races with pit stops, because that's a factor to like an alternate factor. It's not like every race has the same format, and that's also another question. We have different formats in the World Endurance Championships and different punctuations of the races. So that's another thing that could be added to Formula One. Different formats, some races with pit stops or some others with no pit stops. Some races longer, not like 6-hour race, but instead of 300 kilometers, 200 kilometers, something like that. So that's something to alternate and give more randomness to the championship.
Yeah. Idea for you. How about mixed tires? So you know how when they do a pit stop, it's either all softs, all mediums, all hards. Do it that you can have softs on the front, mediums in the rear.
Oof. Wouldn't that be too dangerous though?
I don't think it'll be dangerous, but it will make it a whole new. It's like MotoGP. They have soft fronts, hard rears, or soft rears, medium fronts. They have the combination. They even have asymmetric tires where one side of the tire is soft and the other side of the tire is hard. And I think touring cars, some forms of touring car does it, but do it so have a rule that they have to use both set of tires. So one option, one medium, but they don't have to have all of them on the car at once.
But I have a question for that. Are the front tires as wide as the rear tires?
No.
So the rear tires are wider, I guess.
Yeah, but what I mean is, so you have medium hard tires, soft front tires, and then when they come into a pit stop, they can do soft rears and medium fronts or something like that.
Yeah.
So the teams can choose what tires they want to put on what side. And then they can choose what tires to change. Like with NASCAR and IndyCar, they can change right side tires only.
I mean, it could work.
So basically, they don't have to change all four tires at one stop.
Yeah.
That's something to think about.
Yeah, we need to have deep talks with Pirelli. Pirelli would be the hard point, but as I see that as an option, yeah. So
I was going to say, it's a bit like BTCC a few years ago, where you could have intermediates on one side, on the rear side of the car, and slicks on the front, which was hilarious to watch. But yeah, something like that.
I mean, it sounds good. Definitely, it sounds good. But I feel a bit more reluctant on that rule, because they are coming up with so many new regulations for the safety, adding different compounds in the tires when the behavior of the car could be unpredictable. And I think that would be very controversial from the safety point of view. Would be very fun, but I think that would go too far, maybe.
Possibly.
I don't know. It's it's a good point. I'm not saying no, but
no, I can understand where you're coming from. I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, realistically speaking, yeah, maybe that's not very likely. I say this while there's a new regulation which is no blankets for the tires, which is also very dangerous. Yeah. Well, in theory, which is great. I'm in favor of that rule, but there are some rules that are not very consistent in terms of safety. Anyway.
Well, with this year with F2, they've got the new 18-inch wheels with the tires, and no tire blankets. So that's going to be a big unknown. And also will make F2 drivers very desirable for F1 teams because they will have experience with these tires with no blankets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
let's see what happens with the quarantines, and hopefully we can see what happens in Formula 2. So I don't think I have more questions for today.
Gavin's put a question.
Oh, sorry. Will you ever see different tire manufacturers? Oh, I wish that was a new rule, honestly. But not two.
Well,
I would say 3, 4. Yeah, but
yeah, I would like to see a tire war.
I would like to see a tire war, but not. So before there were two brands, two manufacturers, and there were some teams with one manufacturer and some other teams with the other manufacturer. I would actually let the drivers choose the tire in every race, in every Grand Prix. Like this manufacturer for the whole Grand Prix, and then next Grand Prix, another choice.
Okay.
Like Gavin's saying right now.
Yeah. Yes, I can. I don't think the manufacturers would like that, because if one team chooses their tire, another one's tire, and wins a race, and then the next race they choose another tire and they don't win that race, they go, "Oh, it was the tires. I chose the wrong manufacturer, and that doesn't look good for that manufacturer." Yeah.
Well,
it's not a bad idea.
But can you fully blame on the tire manufacturer if the car behaves differently in one or the other circuit? There's another factor. There's another uncertainty that I think would be great for the show.
What was it, Canada 2010 or 11, where they had to do a 5 or 6 stop race because the tires were full so quickly?
That was Great Britain, Silverstone to 2013, I think.
That was when the tires were exploding.
Yes.
That was when the tires were exploding. But there was one race where they're doing 5, 6 pit stops because the tires were just wearing out so quickly. But that was more to do with the track surface, and then Pirelli bringing the 2 compounds.
All right, then let's.
Here's a question for you.
Okay, yeah, go on.
Do you think they should bring back qualifying tires?
Yes. Yes. I love that idea. Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Just a tire that lasts one lap and then just completely falls to bits.
Yes, I like that idea. Yeah. Just like watching the cars performing like hell for one lap. Yeah, I would love to see that back. Yeah, and I was gonna add to the discussion before. All right, so let's say only the 10 first drivers can choose a different brand, a different manufacturer in the following Grand Prix. So if they all joined all these rules, I think that would be. I don't think then they would need to change the cars, like the design of the cars, massively. Then there are some other things that would make the show great. But obviously there are some difficulties with the companies and everything. But
yeah,
the hybrid cars are not the solution.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't mind the hybrid engines. Okay, this is going to be a controversial one. I don't mind the hybrid engines because I like the technology. I like the technology behind them. That's what interests me with F1 is the tech behind the thing. So I do not mind the. Yes, they don't make the sound. That's compared to the V8s or the V10s. Yeah, they're nowhere near as good. But I don't. There's such a hatred towards them, and I don't mind them.
Okay, maybe we can discuss.
Second stuff.
I'll tell you what. Maybe because we've already been talking for 1 hour, we can stop here this call.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yes.
I just saw the time. Yes.
And maybe in the next call, I don't know, whenever we on Formula One on what happens with Vettel or Bottas or Russell or any other kind of news, we'll have another discussion either late this week or early next week, and we'll focus on the engines and what you think of of all the engines that we've seen in Formula One, at least in the last 20 or 30 years. And I like Gavin's question, possibility for hydrogen. So we can add that one
become
to
Formula E.
Well, Formula 8.
I think Formula E will become hydrogen. That's what I think because it's electric. For hydrogen power is an electric.
Yeah,
electric motors.
Could happen. Yeah.
Oh yes.
But anyway,
we can do this as the F1 lockdown podcast.
Yes. Yeah, we can discuss the engines on another call. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot for that, Oli, and thanks everyone for joining the chat. I didn't expect so many people joining and commenting so much. So thanks a lot for that.
Yeah. Facebook was a good choice, Mario.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Well, see you soon. Take care, and thanks for joining. Stay safe, mate.
See you, Mario.
Bye.